I'm super excited to have today. Our episode is Nilani Ravinsuthan. She's a motivational coach that inspires people to create their life based on their purpose. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Yay! Thanks, Anna Karina.
I'm so excited. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's 10 p.m., but we said, you know what? We're going to do this because this is necessary. This is
Yeah.
every time that we talk, we just mind blown ourselves because like we always go deep and it's such a beautiful realizations, we always have
Yeah.
these beautiful
Yeah.
realizations about life.
Yeah. I love all the inner child work that you do. That really inspires me as well because I think that's so important. That's one of the most important things to do, like inner child work, shadow work, really have some sort of self-awareness. And I feel like that's something we're just automatically on autopilot, really. And it's easier said than done to be like, oh, you should be conscious of your thoughts, like be self-aware, because like a lot of times we're in survival mode. So I think that's why it's so important that I think at the end of the day, like when you're aware of your thoughts, that's like the first step. And it kind of accepting at the level of where you're at and just kind of being like, okay, this is my life. This is what my daily activities are. This is like what I feel like is important in my life, because a lot of times we're not tapped into like our inner child. Like we're not tapped into like what our actual
Mm,
passion is, and
mm.
it's a lot just based on survival. So, and just at least being aware of that is important.
Yes,
So
yes. Is there Nilani, what do you like doing when you were a kid?
So I really like watching a lot of videos. Like my parents used to video us a lot, and so a lot of it, like those big camcorder. Like I
Yes,
was born in the '80s, so like back in the days with
baby.
those huge cameras that now looks like only like George Lucas would use for like Avatar. Like they were huge, and now we're just like, hey guys, here's our phone, this little tiny thing, right? And back then those were like expensive, and
Yeah.
like that. So that was like really grateful. My dad videoed us a lot, and most of the time I was dancing. Really, I was like I loved dancing. I loved like kind of just being, that was like my thing. I really enjoyed performing. So that was definitely something that just kind of came naturally, because anytime there was like music on, my dad would videotape me and I would just be dancing. So
So cool. Is
yeah.
there is there that part of Nilani that uses that skill for today when you guide your clients and help them? How is that Nilani coming out every day or once a week or once a month
Like when it comes to do with dancing
or performing?
or performing. So I like I felt like for me, because I was kind of in that survival mode. I was in school for a really long time, and I was my goal at the time was to be a doctor. So I put a lot of this on the back burner, like dancing, pleasure, feminine energy, anything fun, really, like healing, because feminine energy is many different things. It's not just like, yeah, I wear lipsticks, I do my hair, I'm feminine. Like no, like it's so much more deeper than that. But I think I put that aside for many years, and I think my body and like everything kind of got really unaligned, because when I tried to start dancing again, I realized I actually had to really relax my nervous system. It was very like taught from like many years of just being in survival mode. And so now I'm doing like a lot of different physical therapies, muscular therapies, and all this kind of stuff. And so because my goal is to go back to dancing, because I know that's something that does bring me a lot of joy. But at the moment I'm just like strengthening my body and working on like the fibromyalgia, like getting to the root of it. But I feel like I see the end of the tunnel, and I'm like excited to go salsa dancing with you and all that kind of fun stuff. So
Do you think that the fibromyalgia had to do with the fact that you were always in survival mode and being a doctor means being in your masculine? Explain a little bit of
mhm.
what that means for people that are not, aware of the feminine and masculine energy.
Yeah, definitely. Like, so masculine, feminine energies, they're not necessarily like gender. It has to do with gender. It's like energies. And everyone has this. So originally it's like the yin and yang energies. But like what the kids are calling it these days in modern times, it's like masculine feminine energies. So basically, like, to the point of masculine and feminine energies, it's like, so what, for me when I was in school, I was like really in my masculine energy. I was just like hustling, like trying to get top grades. I like sacrificed my health. I sacrificed, like, and I think it's so normal because everybody did that, right? Like
Uh,
everyone's like studying 24/7. No one's like looking after themselves. And the irony is, like, you're in healthcare, but you're not really taking care of yourself. And just like, and like, and I'm not trying to diss medicine or anything like that. There's obviously so many benefits to it too, but I was just a little annoyed at some of the hypocrisy of, like, I will be in my rotation and, like, we're talking about food. Like, I just remember, like, one of the doctors talking about just like the way he describes the food they eat. It's just like very unhealthy, right? It's just like very much like extreme butter, extreme, like, all the stuff. And then it's like, we're healthcare professionals and we're like, what are we like, this the hypocrisy, right? And just like him having a client and being like, you should eat healthier. And I'm like, we were just over there and you're talking about all like this butter and stuff that you eat every day, like extreme, like fast food, right? Like, you know what I mean? And it was just
yeah.
like this, there's something wrong with the system.
Yeah. Do you
But
do so the what is the magic or what is the benefit of using your feminine energy? I know this, but I want to know your perspective. In my case, in advertising, I've been working for 13 years in and you basically have to fight for your space.
mhm.
Now it's better because the world after Me Too, um they gave more space for women and Latinos, and but since the beginning of times I remember channeling the masculine energy,
Mhm.
getting along with boys, and I had a lot of feminine friends, like a lot of female friends, but I remember at work I will learn from men and I will channel that energy to be able to sell my ideas, to be heard.
Mhm.
And then I started learning about feminine energy and asking for help more, or trying to be, I mean, you have to be a go getter, but according to this feminine energy, you kind of have to like say things, but you don't have to be mandatory or bossy to be able to get it. And I'm trying
Mhm.
to do that in the corporate world. And it has been more interesting because it feels more collaborative.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's, when it comes to business, the two main things is like, and of course, like, masculine or feminine, none of it is bad or good. This is just to differentiate, that if you had to differentiate the energies in business, like a masculine energy would be competitive, like direct. Like if you're going to a networking event, it's like your goal is to meet like three or four people that we're going to work together, we're going to like beat out the competition. There's only limited spots. It's like Wolf of Wall Street, almost like that type of vibe. And like a feminine way of networking would be like, I'm going to this event. I don't know what, like I'm not here to specific, I'm here to network, like actually network and get to know people, and seeing like, oh, I vibe with this person. Maybe we'll like, I went to one of Everboss's, which is Yeska and Elena's, their company, right? Where, and so it was, so they had some meetups where we went for networking, and so Yeska did it in a very feminine way, business. Like, it was very much like, there wasn't a hierarchy. I feel like with masculine, with businesses, the masculine energy is a hierarchy. So it's like, I'm at the top, I tell you what to do, and it's like, it's very obvious that this hierarchy. But in a feminine business energy way, it's like, it's more like a round table. Like, we all have great ideas. No one's ahead or behind or like right or left. We're all just kind of here trying to learn from each other. It's very much like collaboration. It's very much about like, oh, I'll help you with your project because it's coming from like a heart centered, like, I'm really curious about your project, like, this is so interesting, versus like, okay, I'm only doing this because I'm gonna get, yeah, like, it's either competition or I'm definitely doing this, I'm gonna get, like, I owe you, you owe me. Like, that's a very masculine way energy. And
Yeah.
that's not bad either, because that's, there's it's, you kind of need to know both in order to have, like, another big trait in a feminine, using your feminine energy as business, is like, like, you know, when people say like a customer comes up, customer always comes first. It's more
Yeah,
like my staff. Like, let me take care of my staff. Like make sure that they're good. Make sure like, you know, I have some sort of connection with them. I give them a Christmas present every year. Like, I don't know. Like, there's some sort of connection. It's not
nurturing.
just you're my employee, bow down to me. Like, you know, there's like a collaboration to it as well. And also like checks your ego too. I think because I think in times when there's a hierarchy system, you feel like, oh, this isn't done because of you. This isn't done because of that. I mean, that necessarily doesn't necessarily have to be a masculine trait. I think that's a more of a wounded state. Someone who owns a company or CEO or management or something, if they are treating, I mean, this is totally on a tangent that has to do with wounds, but coming back to like a container of like the masculine energy in a container, like say you're a doctor and your containment is like your manager comes in and they're like, okay, you know, your next patient is here, and in that time frame you get to do your art, you get to do the feminine energy, and you get to work with the patient and try different tools and try different things. And so the energy, the feminine energy, is more of the art. It's what's in flow inside of the masculine container. So another example could be like say you have a business, a brick and mortar business, like the brick and mortar part is your masculine containment.
Mm.
So yeah, it's just like an easy way to kind of be like, okay, this is structure and this is my art.
So if you're in a relationship, let's
Hmm.
say your boss is a man, and
Wait, are you dating your boss?
no, in a relationship, like a business relationship,
Oh, okay. I thought you meant really. Okay, okay, okay.
like I
I was like,
wonder
wait, what?
if, huh? Because now that I think about it, my previous boss, his feminine energy was higher than his masculine, I think. And I was always wanting to have more feedback from him, and it was hard to pinpoint what he
Hmm.
actually thought, or he was, I don't know if he was avoidant. I don't know. I joke about it in my stand up. Like I had an emotional, unavailable boss because
Hmm.
every time that I wanted to do a performance review, he will run away. And he did the same with all of us, all of the creatives. So I wonder if when your masculine energy is higher than your boss, and your boss is supposed to be your boss, but if your boss has masculine energy, has feminine energy, in my case, I feel like I was trying to like get his feedback and you know, and he was kind of like pushing me away. So I wonder if in business, how does that work, like the yin and yang, when there is a superior above.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he wasn't really like, in that sense. You're asking him to be the masculine container, and you're like, hey, this is my performance. Like, this is, you know, can you assess me in this? And you're asking him to be that leader, um that
Mhm.
person who's like confident, like, you know, like I'm trying to think of like healthy masculine traits, and he just kind of like, and he like ran away and he doesn't want to. So I mean, that just, it just feels like he just, like, if that's part of your job, right, is to help and teach, right? That's, and the fact that he did it, like, sorry you went through that, because like, you know, you were seeking help, and this guy just, you know, not like, just didn't have the skills, like, not blaming and shaming him either. He just clearly didn't have it. But the fact that you recognize that this is your job and you weren't able to fulfill it is a little odd. So I don't know why. Like, there's could be numerous things that he did, but or why that those traits came out. But at least you recognize that. You're like, yeah, this is. I'd rather have someone who's a little bit more masculine.
So can we say that the earth, or being grounded, is masculine, and when you are connected to higher self and being creative, air, space, is that feminine?
That's a good question. Yeah. So I was talking to a friend about this, and that's actually a really good question, because the way we were looking at it was like the solar plexus is more masculine and the heart center is more feminine.
Oh.
And but I'd like to explore what you're saying too, because I never looked at it that way. But the way we were saying it was like, I was asking her, I was like, does this make sense? Does the solar plexus, because like masculine energy is that will, that like do direct. like I can do it. And then I was saying, well, it's feminine energy is more the heart center because it's like caring, nurturing, collaboration. Like I got, that heart, you need to open your heart in order to have feminine energy. But yeah, I mean, exploring what you're saying too, because feeling grounded to me is a masculine trait. So
I agree.
yeah. And
Like
then
being on time, being in like the red chakra, right? Like finding money, finishing projects, getting things done, and the vessel. We are a vessel of ideas. Like this part seems like we receive the energy and feeling
yeah.
and the ideas, and then we need the masculine to actually execute it and embody it in this term.
Mhm.
So that's an interesting
Yeah. Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but that makes sense too. Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah,
and that's
because
why we need both.
yeah, we need both. And then like the second chakra is the sexual creation energy. So that would be, I would say that's more feminine. So maybe it goes like masculine, feminine, and then throat chakra. I would say is I mean, maybe more masculine. Maybe it has both, right? Because and then I forgot what's the sixth one. I know the seventh one is this one, but I forgot the
This
third
is
eye.
the third eye.
Yeah.
This is intuition.
Okay.
But I think you maybe the way now that you are saying it, I feel like these are tools that we both, feminine and masculine, use because the mom has to take care of the kids and you have to have masculine energy to get things done for the kid.
Mhm.
So maybe it's just a tool, like stepping into the masculine or feminine, and we use all of our
Yeah, exactly.
energy centers to be able to execute.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Even like the right and left hemisphere of your brain, like that's you need to use both parts in order to be efficient. Like you have to use everything as a whole. And I think that's what the world is going towards is like it's like we're not just like stuck as one thing. We're multidimensional and we can like kind of flip, okay, right now I need to be masculine container, I need to be feminine container. What energies do you vibe more with? Like what energies do you feel like serves your highest purpose for more? Like in the sense, like of course you need both, but sometimes it's like, oh, at this moment I need to heal, so I need to be more in my feminine energy. Or like I need to like hustle and create this project, I need some containment, and then in that containment I'm going to do my feminine energy.
Yeah.
So
And I know that when there's a couple that maybe the woman makes more than the man at home or in bed, there's like a clean slate when the man and the woman enter the house to be able to balance out that masculine energy from the woman. Like I heard this the other day, like a bunch of CEOs, they like submission in bed because they have been making so many decisions during the day,
mhm.
like at night, to be able to just surrender to a partner, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's so interesting, right? Like we need that feminine energy somehow, somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is there any magic or tips that you have seen, like something that you're like, oh my God, I tuned into my feminine energy and I saw this happen, or
I
any
think
examples?
yeah, I feel like one of my coaching clients I'm working on with this receiving. And I think that's such a big thing that we like, and a lot of us do this where, like, for example, you'll get a compliment or like you'll get a present, and then all of a sudden you have to like, you're like, okay, I gotta owe them back something. I gotta give them back something, and that's something like there's like society just kind of trained us. Whether you're a man, woman, it doesn't matter. Like we're all kind of like machines in ways where it's like this. And I think it's also this worthy issue that we all have too, where it's like it's very difficult for us to receive a compliment and be like, oh my god, thank you, that's the nicest thing you've ever said. Like we're just like, oh, thanks, and here is this, like,
And then you look amazing.
yeah. And that's something that, because I almost at times have to watch, I want to like in ways like help people at the expense of myself at times. And so I had to kind of flip it where I'm like, no, if people are doing things for me, I need to learn to receive. I need to learn to be like, oh, thank you, I appreciate that. and not have to like give something back. And that's something that I think I like a lot of, especially like high achieving women that are in their masculine energies, like we're so used to doing things that it's hard for us to just sit back and relax. And a lot of times men, they want to do things for us, but we're like, no, I'm not a baby, I can do this myself. Or like, oh thanks, I'm gonna do this for you now. Versus like they, a lot of men are just like trying to have this romantic time, and they're just like trying to give you a flower, or it's like, I don't know, a present or something, and they just want us to like receive it and appreciate it and be so gratitude. And so like gratitude and appreciation is part of receiving as well. So, but a lot of times we're just kind of like this, and we're like, oh thank you, okay, what can I give back to you? Like we have this like nervous energy because, so I think that for me, that was something that I really struggled with receiving, and worthy issues of like, if I'm going to receive something, um it should be something like educational, or it should be something that's like going to help me in the future, versus like it was hard for me to receive like little frivolous gifts, because I was like, oh okay great, what do I do with this? Because I lost my feminine energy. I didn't know how to be like, oh this is interesting. Like I didn't know how to appreciate a lot of things, so I never really received a lot of, like, it was like awkward. But and so that's something I'm working with one of my clients right now, and it's so much fun because she's like every week she's just kind of like being aware, because I think a lot of times we're just not aware that people are trying to do things for us, or people are like even small little trivial things, like when you're outside and you feel the sun on you, and you're like just being present and receiving just at the like quantum level. I feel like that's something I just start from there. Because I'm like, what is receiving? So I just start at the very quantum level, like there is sunshine on my skin, feel it. Like receive the sunshine.
You know, I'm thinking about the fact that when we are both, for example, self sufficient, like I don't
Mm-hmm.
depend on anybody financially, obviously emotionally, I depend on a lot of people, on my community, circle, friends, you know, lovers, parents, family, lovers. It sounds like I have 10 lovers. Provides love
Yeah,
in different forms and shapes.
yeah,
Um, and I feel that we don't appreciate when we are the receiver and the giver at the same time. We don't appreciate what we give ourselves. Like for example, like I wake up in the morning and instead of seeing like, wow, I woke up, yay, you know, like I have a new clean slate to do whatever I want. I have an apartment in this dream area. I have plans. I have health. I mean, I'm recovering from pneumonia, but seeing my body recover is a miracle. And I
yeah,
feel like when we win things, we give it for granted. We take it for granted, right? Like we have,
yeah,
and I don't know if it's because we give it to ourselves, so we are the masculine and the feminine receiving it. I feel like we need to practice how to receive from that something, or if a friend gives me something, I'm like, oh, thank you so much. You're so nice. Me. But then if it's me, I don't appreciate it as much.
yeah,
Like it's interesting, right? Like the feminine energy towards me. How am I receiving me? Like if I give myself the flowers, or if I gave myself the podcast that I launched today, like I should be, wow, Anna, you did it. Or receive,
yeah.
no say how to learn how to receive yourself, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think if we're able to do that for ourselves, we're literally our own, like our biggest cheerleader, you know? Like we don't, it's like when people cheer us on, it's great, right? But it's almost like a cherry on top, because we're already in that
Mm.
frequency and vibration of like, the way I look at it is like so I don't have kids, right? But if I had a kid, or if I had like a niece or a nephew, I have a niece and nephew, like how would I encourage them? Like, well, how would I encourage them? Like how would I talk to them? I would talk to them in like a really like polite, as much, I mean, it's easier said than done. But like in an ideal situation, I would be calm and collective and like be patient. Like my brother's very patient with his kids, and I'm like, why are we not like that with ourselves? What? Like, Did you see that coming? Well,
Yeah, it's again like, but the inner child is receiving, giving yourself. But just to finish that topic, in the sense of, if I'm the provider and I'm the
mhm.
adult and I'm providing to my inner child, like, oh,
Yeah.
I want to do a podcast. Okay, let's do
Mhm.
it. And then it takes me 2 years to do the freaking podcast. And finally, I launch the podcast. The inner child is kind of like, okay, got it. Yeah, next, you know?
I think that's more the ego doing that. I don't think that's the inner
So,
child.
okay.
Because the inner child would be like ecstatic, but part of the times we think it's hard to know what part of our psyche is kind of coming out, because we think it's like I would say what if the parts, because think about it, just like a kid, if a kid like really wanted something, they would act like a kid when they
That's
get it,
true.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nilani on my podcast.
Yay.
We
Exactly.
are kind of. I mean, we are like kids every time we talk. So,
Yeah, yeah, no, it's true. I like that about you. You give me permission to like just be myself and be like a kid and just like whatever.
I'm glad. I'm hoping that this helps people to open up and let their inner child go for a play.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But so like going back to your thing about like, when you're like, "Oh, I got this check mark next." I feel like that's more of like a bucket list thing. Which is like it's that's not coming from a deep, I mean, like I'm not saying everything on your bucket list
Yeah,
isn't
I
deep, but a lot of
understand.
times, like for me, like when I see people who are like, I'm going to Egypt to see the pyramids, I'm just like, but it comes with this like, no, I'm not saying going to see the pyramids is bad. I'm saying there's an energy about certain people who are just like, I'm just doing this to like,
Just to post it on Instagram.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like
Yeah.
a check mark. Like it's like
I
a
feel like the biggest, okay, I read something today about ego and soul. Ego is
mhm.
about the outcome and soul is about the journey.
Yeah.
So the podcast, for example, talking about the podcast is something that is a vulnerable space. And that's why my ego was like, no, let's just wait and wait and wait and wait. And my ego is like, everybody should see this. And my soul is kind of like, it has to, whoever needs to see it will see it, you know? So
Mhm.
there's something there about the ego and the bucket list and how different parts of ourselves in the same Airbnb,
Yeah.
and like who's taking over and being aware, observant of those parts, right? And this is what
Mhm.
integrated family system therapy is about.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love that I integrated family system, yeah, because it feels like you can almost observe the parts in your brain. I think for me with integrated family system, the biggest thing was like, so you know how there's like the manager and then there's the firefighter? So there's like one part of your psyche that, so the managers are trying to like protect your inner child, like they're trying to protect the trauma, they're trying to protect like, but they're doing their best, right? Like, and part of it, because it hasn't, the wounding of your inner child hasn't evolved out. So instead of, if you're not trying to observe your inner child and like the abandonment, the judgment, whatever, right? Like there's a part of your psyche that will do anything to kind of like stop the pain from coming. So for example, one of them, the managers, they're the ones that like, you'll do something that looks really healthy. Like for example, like you're a gym nut, you're like always at the gym, you're like really, you're a workaholic, and it, on the surface it looks good. And I'm not saying everyone who works a lot has this, but in this situation where it's like you're always working, you're always at the gym, even spirituality, you're always doing spiritual stuff, but it's actually part of your psyche that's like overworking yourself so you don't have to face some of the wounds from your inner child or shadow work or whatever. And then the other level, which is called, I think they call firefighters. I call them arsonists because they're basically like, it goes to the next level where it's like they're trying to mask it through like gambling or like addiction or um
Pleasures.
yeah, extreme pleasures. And so to me, I don't know why they call it firefighters, but I would call them arsonists because this is like extreme stuff. So they're being like an arsonist instead of I don't know. but they call it a firefighter. And so yeah, like it's like the extreme stuff. So when you're aware of the stuff, you're like, oh, why am I spending all my money in gambling? Like maybe I'm there's something in me that's like masking something because I keep doing these extreme pleasures. And it's like you get the dopamine hit, you get the high, but it lasts for so long, and then you see the patterns, you go back to it. And then some people are like, okay, well, I'm not going to gamble anymore. But then they're like extreme food addiction. So there's like something extreme that's going on that they're not addressing, and probably not even aware of it, right? Because you're masking it with all these different addictions.
Yeah, I think the Instagram, for example, dopamine that I get, I've seen it when I don't want to face something uncomfortable. I go instantly on Instagram and it feels like it's a numbing part of my brain that wants to be soothed.
Mm.
So, for example, when I have to do something uncomfortable or new, like I need to find an apartment to move to New York, or I need to do this write up, or I have to do comedy. Like my brain is like, okay, let's do something comfortable for a second because we're gonna do something unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like it's a tiny scale of what you're mentioning, right? Like if I'm constantly working, constantly going to the gym, or looking for pleasures, different numbing mechanisms, alcohol or drugs or whatever that is that makes me escape for a little bit. There's so much you can do to escape, right? Like there is a moment where
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna hit that wall. Oh, yes, yes. So okay, there's so much numbing you can do. There's so
Mm-hmm.
much Instagram I can do. There's so much traveling. I remember I used to travel a lot to escape reality here. Lots of traveling every weekend, every 2 weeks. Let's travel, blah 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 blah. But then when you take care of what's in front of you, you don't need those numbing mechanisms. So yeah, according to Buddhism, dharma is your purpose. Karma is like this elastic band that hits you when you are too far away from your dharma. So either a lost job or a boyfriend breakup or whatever that is that brings you back to your center, where you are like, okay, what is my passion? What is something that I'm passionate about? Why did I forget myself like that? It
Mm-hmm.
happens a lot when we are in a new job or a career path or a relationship. We lose ourselves into this new shiny object, and then after 10 years, when the kid leaves the house, you're like, I don't feel like I have a purpose anymore. So
Yeah.
so it's reminding yourself, connecting with that part of you, with that inner child, like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? And it doesn't have to be your career. It can be a hobby once a month, or you know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like I think it's like sometimes it's I think a lot of times it's like when you were saying it's your hobby that you do once a month, like just something to express yourself, something to get back to who you are, and something that it's like I like to do things twofold. Like for example, like if it's like your hobby, then it's some like for example, say it's like running, right? And it's you love running because of like some people say I've never experienced this, but like runner's high.
Really?
I don't understand this, but people claim that you get runner's high, right? But so I'm like, okay, great. You're doing something that you love, running. You get this runner's high, and and it's a physical thing. So you're doing like three things at once, right? So like sometimes it's like yeah, like you were saying, like you can find a hobby, and this hobby fulfills so many different dimensions in one. I'm not running. Don't make me run. I hate that shit.
I used to run a lot with my Dark Night of the Soul. It was a great way
Oh,
to,
really? Wow.
yeah, the anxiety. Sometimes you can fucking meditate. Sometimes you just need to dance or run or just get that energy out of your system. And I
Mhm.
run a lot, but then I started doing therapy, yoga, taking medication, and then I didn't have to run that much anymore. And
Yeah.
also and also
Yeah.
the knees.
But do you like running though?
I do, but not like I used to. I used to run every day, polar vortex -20. I will run every day. Like I love
Whoa.
running. I used to crave it because it was like my release. But now I'm more into the like ping pong, tennis. I used to love playing ping pong and tennis, but I kind of forgot about that passion, right? So then I'm like, there are other ways that I can release energy
Mm-hmm.
in a more clever way. And I don't need to be clever all the time, but I feel like tennis and ping pong is what you said, 3 in 1, 4 in 1 for me. It's so
Yeah.
it's everything in one. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It says my battery is like
Yeah.
5%.
I thank you, Nilani, for coming
Yeah.
here. Is there any handles, Instagram plugins, whatever you want to promote, please?
Yeah, so um my YouTube and my Instagram, which I haven't posted anything yet, but I've been I'm gonna use my coaching stuff to start posting, but it's activate your creation energy because I like that I chose that because I feel like I want to help people who want to learn to activate your creation energy, which basically means like with the 4 stages of the consciousness that I'll talk to about on another episode is like when you get to a certain or when you're aware of certain stages, you're able to live your life differently from survival mode. And so when you're in an abundant mindset and you apply that in the physical world, it's like a very different way of living and living your dharma. And then it's like, how do you ground this? How do you consistently have certain habits? And I think to me that was something that literally changed the way I look at everything.
Wow, that's so powerful. Wow, I mean, it's sad that that happened to you, that you were in survival mode, but I'm happy that you're helping people not go through that, right? And I think that
Yeah,
that's the seed of why we do what we do, right? We don't want people to suffer what we did suffer.
right, exactly. And if you can help someone else see certain things, and also again some people have to go through their own stuff too, like I people have told me certain things and I'm like, yeah, I'm not listening to you. I'm just gonna I have sometimes you have to like, go through it yourself in order for it to resonate as well. So like, either path, there's no right or wrong. It really depends on, sometimes your soul needs to firsthand experience, and sometimes you're like, okay, I get why I shouldn't be doing this, or like I should, or just trying a different way, different approaches. So this is why I love like listening to like podcasts and YouTubes and stuff like that, because it's like interesting to see how people have dealt with different situations, and then like you said, it could save your different people's times, and yeah. But yeah,
Love.
this is so
Thank you so much for
fun.
being here. Thank you for
Yeah.
your time and presence.
Yeah, thank you. I hope you feel better.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go rest. I'm gonna sleep like a baby.
Okay, good. Yeah, get rest.